This is episode 29.5 of Stay on Topic, with the last three guys you know who haven't been accused of sexual assault and or harassment.
2.
And that was Bob Ricotta, who can be found on Twitter at...
Bob Ricotta.
And next to him is James Post, who can be reached on Twitter at
PostJam9.
And I'm Chris Gill, and I can be reached on Twitter at Giltastrophe. Been a while, boys, since we've been in the Stay on Topic chairs. Nice to be back.
Yeah, good to dust the dust off and get back to...
I did not bring the dust off. I didn't know that was a thing we were doing this week.
We had talked about Robitussin at one point.
Yeah, Robo-tripping's coming.
Okay.
Yeah, once we get deep into the winter and we all get colds, we're going to do a special Robo-tripping episode.
Okay.
Well, we've done the drunk episodes. So
Not enough.
No.
Yeah.
We always choose weekdays and stuff to do this, so bummer.
I'm okay for drinking during the week. Anyway.
Yeah, in the moment, anyway. Yeah, so since we've been gone, a lot of big names in the entertainment and business industries have...
News?
Politics?
I mean...
Politics?
Just it shows such a widespread problem.
Yeah.
With men behaving beyond badly.
Yeah.
And it's...
And a culture that protects them.
Yeah. Yeah, not anymore.
No, and it's... I mean, if there's... it's been difficult to watch all of these allegations come out because in some cases they're people you had respect for one reason or another. I mean, Mark Halperin was hard for me to hear about.
George Takei.
Yeah, that's just... Yeah. But at the same time, the fact that as this started to come out, the freedom that so many women started to feel to come forward that just wasn't there before has been amazing. And it's got to be good for our culture in the long term.
This is where social media can work for change.
Yeah.
This is a great example of how social media can be a good tool, because it's always, especially in the last 5 years, it's really been looked upon as just acidic cesspools.
Yeah.
And Twitter and Facebook mainly. But to see all these guys getting outed by these women who have been abused or harassed.
And men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been really powerful. It really started a year ago when Devin Faraci got accused, and he never denied it, and just goodbye career.
Yeah.
You haven't seen him again since. And then it kind of followed through with like the Andy Signor situation. And then Harvey Weinstein thing broke.
Sort of broke the
floodgates.
floodgates.
The floodgates just broke open. So long time coming. It's just a shame that there was so much damage done in the wake of all of it to the victims.
Yeah.
But Ellen Page had a terrific Facebook post that outed, my God, 3 serial harassers?
Yeah.
It's... So, we made light of it at the top of the show, but we think we're pretty morally upstanding. Fellows.
We try, and yet, we were just talking about, it's this has made us think about our own behavior. And I don't think any of us is by any means the next Harvey Weinstein, but if this makes, any guy think twice about doing something, half that bad, it's got to be good.
Yeah, as a single guy, it makes the waters much trickier to navigate. Where are the limits with somebody you really don't know that well?
Yeah, exactly.
That's given me a lot to think about. Like, how do you approach that situation going forward?
Yeah, and it's also made me, think a lot more about, it when, 15 years ago, when, what was it, Yale had started talking about consent in the college culture, and kind of shifted the conversation from no means no to yes means yes. And now, schools, whether it's high schools that actually do comprehensive sex ed, which isn't enough, or colleges, talking about enthusiastic consent. Because no means no just really isn't enough, because, there's so many cases when you hear the stories of these women where, they were put in a situation where the power imbalance was such that they weren't able to say no. They didn't know what would happen next if they said no.
Yeah, and that's on your peer-to-peer level. The powerful, if the rich and powerful that were doing this, everybody knew they were doing it.
Yeah.
They were making jokes at the Oscars on live television about it. And it was kind of laughed off. And now nobody's laughing anymore.
Yeah.
So it sucks that so many people were damaged by this, but a lot of people are going to be spared because they've spoken up.
Yeah.
So keep speaking up for the love of Christ.
One of the very striking things for me is that it was only about a year ago that quite a few women came forward and said, Donald Trump sexually assaulted, sexually harassed me. And that went, no, we still elected the man president. So now we're at least at a point in our society where these women are not marginalized. They're taken seriously when they say these things. Maybe if we were this place 13 months ago, Hillary Clinton would be our next president, or be our president instead of Donald Trump.
Or Gary Johnson.
But, this does raise, for me as a journalist and as an editor, the journalistic standard has always been that you don't call someone a rapist or a sexual abuser unless they've been convicted. And, I can see how this has got to be difficult for the media to navigate if they're still thinking in those old school terms, and maybe they're not.
I think your mainstream media mostly, like your...
But, in so many of these cases, the allegations are so old, they're never going to be tried.
No.
And, we're erring on the side of believing the women making the accusations.
Yeah, there's a real fine line of, somebody's livelihood, career, life could get shit canned pretty easily by one accusation.
Yeah, and that's what I worry about. Is the first time one of these comes out, and it turns out someone's making an accusation that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
How much does that hurt the progress we've made?
Yeah, that's what scares me.
False accusations of rape statistically are incredibly rare.
Yeah.
Despite what men's rights activists may have you believe, if you frequent those corners of the internet, incredibly rare. Because who would want to put themselves through that?
Yeah.
But it does happen. And if somebody thinks, that if somebody is sick enough that they want the spotlight enough to make an accusation that turns out not to be true, worst case, obviously it takes the culture back, maybe to where we were before Harvey Weinstein. And best case, less worst case, I don't know.
Yeah.
Where, the allegation just isn't investigated and you end up with someone whose career is over and they really didn't do anything.
Yeah, that's what, man, you got to be real careful when there's a tsunami of these accusations to make sure to try and vet them as best you can.
Yeah.
But man, you're talking one-on-one situations.
Yeah. Well, and that's...
Well, look at Kevin Spacey, for example.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't been proven guilty of anything. He's already been taken off a movie, and House of Cards is done, right?
Yep.
They're not. Yeah. So, I mean, his career, at least in the short term, has been massively affected by an accusation at this point. I'm not saying that whether there is or is not merit to it, but the damage has been done. I mean, he's lost millions of dollars, and it could be that this is the one that is, not true. Any one of them could be the one that is not true. But
at the same time, and for how long did we not want to believe bad things about Bill Cosby?
Right. Even though everybody in the industry
started
knew
in
it
the
was
90s. It's not like that. It's not like allegations against Bill Cosby were new. It took the weight of 30 some women to actually end his career.
And a joke by Cat Williams.
Yeah.
He busted that door down and then was like, oops.
Yeah.
Didn't mean that. Speaking of accusations, the Russia election probe really took some big steps forward while we were on our autumn break.
Yeah.
So how many do we have? 5? 5 people that were indicted by...
Indicted? 4 or 5. I can't remember now.
Yeah, we should write this shit down. But it just seemed like it took a long time to get to this point. Now what's next?
That's the nature of grand jury investigation.
Yeah. What's next is the 4 or 5 people who've been indicted are offered deals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Somebody sings. And
so far, Papadopoulos is the only one that I've read that is more than willing to sing.
Yeah. And I'm not sure he's big enough to get them where they want to go.
Exactly.
Yeah. Though bigger than what the Trump administration would have us believe.
Yeah. But if
he's a volunteer who walked off the street.
If you know you're going to get a presidential pardon, regardless of what happens, where's the... I mean, there is no conflict there. You're just like, I'll just lie.
Yeah.
If I get thrown in the slammer, I'm going to get a presidential pardon. Whoever is indicted, their political careers are pretty much destroyed.
Yeah.
So why not just say what you want to not harm yourself, knowing you're going to get off the hook. You're asking scumbags to do the right thing.
Well, but it's not like what you're thinking is something that Bob Mueller is unaware of. So I'm assuming that they're planning this with the right leverage on the right people.
I'm thinking back to
they think they have that.
To the Scooter Libby situation.
Yeah.
Which is not quite the same, but it was pretty god awful what he did, and got off scot-free. The administration wasn't affected one iota.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the nihilist take on it.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what comes next. But I'd like to think, considering his former position as head of the FBI, FBI, right? That Mueller is a pretty bright guy, and he knows what he's got and what he doesn't. So
yeah, but at least it moved forward. I think. Yeah. I mean, I know this was like the thing I was waiting for to happen more than anything else. Was for Infinity War, but this is something that's actually important. This is the thing that I was looking forward to the most. It's like, get these indictments out. Let's see who gets brought in.
Yeah. Well, and obviously the indictments, the timing of the indictments and who the indictments are were also planned.
Oh yeah.
They're meant to send a message to someone.
Mm-hmm.
And, none of us are probably smart enough or in the loop enough to figure out who that is. But there's, this was not done randomly by any means.
Yeah, while we're away, we each got to do our own little things. Another really cool news item. There are reports that Fox wants to sell all its entertainment properties to Disney.
Yeah.
Which I'm of two minds about this. First of all, yay, X-Men and the MCU. But Jesus, that's an awful lot of AAA titles under one roof.
Yeah.
That bothers me.
I don't know if antitrust applies to IP, you know.
I know.
But, you know, the thing that's coming out of that bothers me is the news that Disney is starting its own streaming service, which doesn't even have a name yet, much less a server, much less, you know, a price or anything. But that's where the Marvel Netflix shows are apparently going to go now.
From what I've read from people who understand the situation is the Daredevils, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and Punisher are cool for now. They're gonna keep churning this stuff out because Marvel's not stupid. They want their IP out there.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for anything new, Moon Knight, or, you know, just kind of spitballing here, no.
Squirrel Girl?
Yeah, that shit's getting shelved until the Disney
much anticipated Squirrel Girl solo show
in Variety Hour. Speaking of other cool things, I don't think James has seen Stranger Things 2. I don't even know if you've seen Stranger Things. I haven't seen any of it.
Okay. Oh. It looks scary.
It's done quite lovingly. Yeah, just a couple brothers that really like the 80s aesthetic to suspense and horror, and I loved it. Bob, what did you think?
I loved it. I loved every minute of it. Well, I loved most of it. There was one episode that was out of place.
The infamous episode 7.
Yes.
Yeah. It is just a whole lot of fun.
It is. And they have charismatic actors and well-written characters, and there's a lot of heart in it.
In Winona Ryder's triumphant comeback.
Yep.
It's a fun... It's like sitting down with your favorite bowl of ice cream.
If your ice cream had a scary surprise in the middle.
And if you had a favorite bowl of ice cream, because that's a phrase that I don't think anyone uses, and they don't use it for a reason, because it's fucking stupid.
Because you can't have a bowl made of ice cream?
Just because you can have a bowl of your favorite ice cream.
Yes, I misspoke.
I can't let things go.
You also can't be bothered to watch cool things on Netflix.
Fair enough.
If you made it through Iron Fist, you've got to sit through
Stranger Things. I did not make it through Iron Fist. I made it through 5 episodes of Iron Fist. I was proud of myself for getting that far.
But James did finally pick up Horizon Zero Dawn. What'd you think?
Not that far into it, but so far loving it. Loving the story, loving the characterization. The main character is interesting, which doesn't happen that often, or really often at all in AAA games anymore. They really want that main character to be an empty vessel so that you can, you know, that your Call of Duty leads and, you know, you just project yourself on them. And they decided to make Aloy, like, she's a character. And she's a character that I'm less than 10%, plot-wise into the game, and I want to know where she's going next.
And she is a female lead in a video game who isn't sexualized at all.
No.
Throughout the entire game. They never put her in something like stupid revealing or anything like that. She's a goddamn warrior, and that's how they treat her.
Well, and I went into the shops and started looking through the outfits, the armor, and it's like, no, she's covered.
Yeah.
And sometimes she's covered in heavy sheets of metal. So yeah, I mean, that's, it's one of those things that's, if you're not familiar, really common to fantasy, sci-fi, video games is somehow for women, the more powerful, more defensively powerful your armor is, the less it covers.
Yeah.
Not a problem in this game.
No, it's fantastic. You're going to love it. The more you get into the story, the more you're going to want to advance it because they'll throw you a cutscene. You're like, what the shit was that? I gotta find about it.
And I've already had like 3 or 4 holy shit moments in like 4 or 5 hours, maybe.
It's terrific. I picked up Shadow of War.
Yeah.
The day it dropped.
How many microtransactions have you bought?
0. It's those, they were overblown by the internets.
You think?
They don't impede you from doing well in the game. Like if you don't use the microtransactions, you're still going to be okay in the game. They're not really that.
You know, because I had read that. I mean, I don't know how far you are in the game.
Dan, you're finished.
I'd heard from people online that you would get to that point near the end where you're trying to defend your fortresses and stuff like that, and don't have enough orcs, and you're sort of stuck buying them.
Yeah, I have not come across it. Maybe they're not good planners.
Yeah.
But if you just wanted to blow through the game real quick, go spend all the money you want on the little loot boxes to see what you get. But part of the fun of gaming is grinding out and earning this shit.
Yeah.
And so yeah, the microtransactions really make no difference. And
that's there was a great interview that came out from I don't know if Monster Hunter World is on your radar at all.
It's on my radar.
It looks so good. And it looks beautiful. And I've never played any of the Monster Hunter games. I've played a lot of the Tukiden and what's the other one?
Shadow of the Colossus.
God something. Anyway, there's a couple of games that are sort of like rip-offs of that, basically, that same kind of play style. And anyway, so I was definitely interested in that. And the director on that game gave an interview in Japanese, where he basically talked, this is a game about getting loot. That's really the whole point. You go out and you plan your attack on this one giant monster so you can get the stuff that comes off of it when you kill it, so you can craft better armor so you can take on a bigger monster than that. And that's the core gameplay. So why make the core gameplay something that you can avoid by paying money?
Yeah.
And he responded to the question about microtransactions like, are you crazy? And I found that viewpoint just so refreshing. Like, if you're playing a game where the point is to get loot, then why, it gives people the impression that that's something to be avoided when you can pay to get out of it.
Where the microtransactions really ran into trouble was with Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to wait and see how that one plays out before I pick that up, if I pick it up, because I just don't like what I've heard.
Yeah.
That is a multiplayer experience. The single player campaign's only 5 hours. It's a little more than an afterthought.
Yeah.
They only put it in there because everyone was bent out of shape that there was no single player.
And it sounds like they literally if they only put that much in there, it was just like, here, shut up.
Yeah, shut the fuck up and let us do our big, massive, multiplayer battles. And that, if you want to spend the extra money, you're going to get leveled up and just mow people down. That's where it's unfair.
Yeah.
That's where, I don't have the money to just spend to get better armor and star cards and shit like that.
Well, and especially when, I don't know, are they doing that as loot boxes?
No, that's the thing. I don't know how much you played the first one, but they have star cards which afford you special abilities, and they were earned by grinding and doing specific things. In Battlefront 2, you can just buy them. Okay,
but you're still... I find the ability to buy something directly less offensive than the randomized loot boxes, because basically what that does is it plays on the part of your brain that gets addicted to gambling.
Yeah, the gambler brain.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think the loot boxes, are unethical.
Yeah, it's a horrible addition from the mobile gaming.
Yeah.
That it found its way into your consoles, and it sucks.
It's starting to spread everywhere.
I know. We also all saw Ragnarok.
Yes.
Which brings us here today. We finally sat down. I don't know. Maybe you guys were standing when you made your list. And made a comprehensive... Me too. Made a comprehensive list a ranking of the 17 Marvel Cinematic Universe movies.
Up to and including Thor Ragnarok.
Up to and including. But the box office is still ongoing for that, so those numbers can't factor in too much into it. So what we did, we each made our own lists, and we assigned points for positions.
You assigned points.
I ran it by both of you, and no one raised a fuss.
It was too complicated for me to evaluate based on a text message.
Basically, there are 3-point gaps from first to second, second, third to fourth, etc. And then once you get into single digits, it becomes a 4-point gap. And once you get to the bottom 4, it becomes a 1-point gap. So it's loosely based off the old F1 point system.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yes.
And that's kind of the impression I got when I read it. So I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it's a much more fair way to determine these things. So we voted, and without further ado, we collectively decided that Thor: The Dark World, that was the second movie in the Thor series, is the worst movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The highest it ranked on any of our lists was 16th. It was released in 2013. It was one of the follow-up movies to Avengers.
Yeah.
Iron Man 3 was the direct follow to Avengers, and this came afterwards in November. And it still cleared, it was a god-awful movie, still cleared $644 million at the box office.
Yeah, still technically a success.
And it was directed by Alan Taylor, who directed some of the legendary Game of Thrones episodes. That's how he got the gig.
Yeah.
They loved what he did with Thrones on a small budget. They're like, oh my God, you can totally do this. And then threw shit at him and changed the script on him. And
yeah,
they got was The Dark World.
They didn't have much of a story to tell. And I've seen the movie twice.
Same.
And I'm still not quite sure what happens in it.
They released the Aether.
Yeah.
Which is it's the second, technically the third Infinity Stone that we're introduced to in the Marvel Universe. And that was about it.
Yeah.
Oh, and Loki banished his father and took over the throne after playing a trick on Thor.
And they went out of their way to give Natalie Portman's character a much bigger part just so that she could jump ship not long after.
And hastily write her out. We'll get to that. Kat Dennings had a much bigger role.
Yeah.
Let's see, who ranked it the highest?
I think it would...
No, yeah. Okay. No, it was me. I ranked it the highest at 16th.
Justify your... Why do you love Dark World?
Because it was more... It is still a better movie to watch than our 16th entry on the list, The Incredible Hulk.
I did not hate the Hulk.
The Incredible Hulk was the follow-up to Iron Man. And everybody was expecting great things. It had Ed Norton Jr. in it. The highest ranking it got was 14th. Who was that by? That was by Ricotta. Released in 2008, it only made $263 million. It was a right out of the gates.
It wasn't that long after the Ang Lee Hulk, which was a train wreck.
Yeah, much worse Hulk movie.
But no, and that I don't really like it, but it basically, on my list, it came above Dark World just by virtue of I do remember what happened in it. I have no desire to ever see it again. It didn't do anything for me. The third act was overblown. It was too tropey. Yeah.
So I have the same problem with the Hulk that I have with Superman. Just overpowered. What do you throw against this godlike being to make it an interesting fight?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that
Superman?
Oh. No, that would be a movie.
Thor?
So
kind of was a movie.
Yeah. So I thought the Hulk was a decent story. But I think the Hulk works better as a supporting character in another movie and not as the main character of his own movie.
And apparently Marvel agrees because they haven't even tried to get another one off the ground.
Which is a pity because, the comic book story they based part of Ragnarok on was Planet Hulk, which would have been an amazing movie.
Yeah. I'm not sure it would have been.
I'm not sure
it would. It would be tough to adapt.
It would need years of setup.
Yeah.
You can't do Planet Hulk without all that setup.
Yeah.
And it took 60 years of setup to set up Planet Hulk.
Yeah.
And even better, in my opinion, was World War Hulk.
Which you have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only guy that could take him out is Thor, who is our 15th movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Thor movies just were not good.
And here's where we disagree, because
I was just going to get to that.
While I don't think the Thor movies are particularly great, I think that the Thor movies contain the only great Marvel villain.
So did Avengers.
Okay, well,
yeah, they realized they had something good there, so they decided to put it in a better movie.
Yeah, but yeah, this the highest it ranked on any of our lists was 12th by Bob. This was released in 2011, and it was kind of rushed along because they discovered they could do the Avengers movie. They're like, holy shit, we got to get a Thor and a Cat movie out now.
Yeah.
So production was pretty rushed. It showed. Kenneth Branagh is a Shakespearean director, and you could see some tones of that, but I not enough. Not nearly enough. And they even gave him Anthony Hopkins to play with.
And we'll get into this. I think we'll get into this more later.
Yeah.
One of my biggest issues with Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that playing Thor for laughs is great, but it only goes so far when you never play him seriously.
I still think Hemsworth was written for and directed the best for that character in Avengers, and nobody's come close to hitting it again since.
Yeah.
But the first Thor movie only made $449 million only on a $140 million budget.
So okay.
And they played Thor almost entirely for laughs in that first movie.
Well, in the first two acts, because it was a fish out of water story, so it makes sense.
But I feel like it needed to have an act where he was Thor before they did the fish out of water.
Well, they did. I mean, he went in,
It was 10 minutes.
Yeah, 15.
Whatever.
So the first Thor movie fell right after Iron Man, correct?
Yeah, it fell in November of 2011.
So maybe the joy that I got out of Thor was we were still young in this whole world building process, and it was a kick to see Coulson. It was a kick to see Hawkeye. It's like, hey, they're doing something here. These aren't just standalone movies.
Hawkeye may have been the best part of that movie,
and he was on screen for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I rate it higher than you, is because I was still, I was the novelty of the world building and the cameos and the crossovers was still new to me. It's not, we're not 17 movies in and we expect the world building and the crossovers. It was still a novelty.
The Marvel Studios was still young enough that when Thor came out, you basically had three stinkers. You had Iron Man 2, Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, and Thor after the first Iron Man. And you were really wondering if this was going to work.
Yeah.
Because, boy, their batting average was not great getting off the ground. It was a kick to see them on screen, no doubt. And to give them something serious to do. The effects were there. I still hate the art direction for Asgard, but anyway. yeah, it seemed like Marvel was on really shaky ground, and you thought they were.
But look at the numbers. The numbers don't say they were on shaky ground.
Well, Hulk made $263 million.
Okay, well,
the first Thor made $449 million on a $140 million budget. Most studios would be happy with that. The first Iron Man, which we'll get to, only made $585 million.
Yeah,
they were not. I mean, they are successes, but that made seriously, Ant-Man, which is our number 14th movie.
Nice segue.
That we ranked, almost matched the first Iron Man in terms of box office.
Okay.
That was released in 2015. The highest any of us rated it was 11th. Now I got to flip to see who actually did that. James.
That was me.
James rated Ant-Man. I don't know. But yeah, that made $519 million, and that was an August release, which typically is for the also-rans of the summer movie season.
And see, I thought it worked really well for what it was, and I liked the idea of, I liked the ability to sort of move the universe into a different genre and have it still work. And I still think that final fight is worth a lot.
It's pretty great, but man, what really held this movie back was they were trying to blend what Edgar Wright had done with the script previously.
And there's so many seams that show through in that movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's why I can't give it. I've seen it twice and I was like, okay, yeah, but boy, you can really see the stitching on Frankenstein's monster in this movie, probably more so than any other movie in the MCU.
But the whole bottom half of my list is really, there are just movies that I disliked more, basically.
How much did you dislike Iron Man 2, which is our number 13th movie on the list? This was, again, ranked 11th as the highest, and I believe... Oh, that was by Bob.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I put a little lower.
I liked Mickey Rourke's character. I liked Whiplash. I liked the battle at the end. I liked the
I did like that end battle. Even though, from an art direction standpoint, it was totally unlike the rest of the movie.
Yes.
It was
translated from another movie.
Yeah. Yeah, everything.
I like the introduction of War Machine, although I don't know that replacing I don't remember the actor who played him in the first movie, but
Terrence Howard.
Yes, and replacing him with Don Cheadle, I don't know if that was necessary.
Cheadle. Oh yeah, that was a great move.
Really, I thought
Terrence Howard bores the shit out of me.
Huh?
And anything he does, he's boring.
I thought he was perfectly fine.
You didn't like him in Glitter?
Did not. Yes, I watched Glitter. Although not since August.
And Iron Man 2 follows that arc that trilogies usually follow. The middle one is the dark one.
Not so in this.
Yeah, no, it just doesn't. Nothing happens in it. Nothing of consequence. It's literally it's marching in place, which is the role that it held in the cinematic universe. They needed a movie to fill that release date, and they didn't have anything.
And it just felt very disjointed. Although, like Bob said, the last battle scene was probably the best action sequence in any MCU flick to that point. And boy, it kind of looked like it was directed by somebody else.
Yeah,
it really did. But for the particulars, it was released in 2010. This was Marvel's first.
Sometimes I wish we knew more about second unit directors on movies, because I feel like
I'd love shit. Yeah,
I'd be willing to bet that the second unit director had a whole lot more to do with that fight than the director did.
Yeah. This made $624 million. This was their first really profitable flick. This was their most profitable flick to this point in the MCU. It was Jon Favreau's last directing outing in the MCU, even though he still carries producer credit on everything because he's smart when he makes contracts.
Yeah.
Our 12th highest rated movie. It's a shame this wasn't higher, but I don't see how it could. Captain America, the First Avenger. The highest anybody ranked it was me at 11th. I really dug the movie. this was released in 2011, only made $370 million.
Yeah.
Again, kind of what we were talking about. Like, Marvel was really struggling before Avengers hit.
Yeah.
And this one certainly had its problems. It was way too comic booky. The effects looked terrible. The VFX looked terrible.
Yeah.
The practical effects were actually very good. They didn't know how to use Captain America well.
No, they didn't. I kept wondering throughout that movie, what is he doing to turn the war around? Because I don't see him doing anything that special, except being able to punch people hard.
Yeah, he had like 1 or 2 shield throws, which is like a staple of Captain Goddamn America.
And they don't do anything to establish him as like a strategic thinker or a leader. They make a joke of him being a leader, and then they never sort of upend that by showing his capability to do that for real. So, I mean, to me, that's where the movie fails, is I don't think it establishes Cap very well.
No, this was directed by a Spielberg protege, whose name keeps it, Joe Johnston.
Yeah.
Whose previous best was probably the Jurassic Park: The Lost World.
I like The Rocketeer a lot.
Yeah. For its time, it was pretty good.
And I understand why. I suspect people saw The Rocketeer, and that may have been one of the things that made them think that was a good fit.
Yeah, my problem with the first Avenger was they didn't show what Captain America could really do. They didn't use his powers creatively at all. They didn't use the shield creatively at all. I actually loved the first and part of the second act. I thought those were great.
Yeah.
The
establishment of like the origin story, if you will, that part's fine.
The second half, man, as soon as he goes off to save his buddies, the thing just falls apart. And their effects, the VFX, say that again, were awful. The VFX really made a huge breakthrough for Marvel with our next movie, Doctor Strange, which ranks 11th overall on our list. The highest it was rated was 8th, and that was by James.
Yeah.
Bob didn't rank it high. This was released in 2016, and for a fall release, it made $677 million.
How low did Bob have it? Because as I remember, it was pretty low.
Yeah, Bob had it way down there. Bob had it at 15th.
Yeah.
15 out of 16.
I wanted to hear about that.
Well, I didn't think Benedict Cumberbatch was a charismatic lead. I felt like the ending was creative and interesting, but there wasn't a compelling villain. I felt, as I've said, and this is more storyline than anything, but I felt that he didn't earn the title of Sorcerer Supreme. It was given to him.
And I totally agree with you on that. I still thought it was a good ride.
Yeah,
it was a pretty movie to look at.
That for sure. Their VFX took a big leap forward with this movie. I mean, go back and watch the first Avenger and then watch Doctor Strange, and you can see what kind of improvement they made there.
But it's if you wanted to convincingly convey, what Stephen Strange in the comics did have to go through to become sorcerer, you'd be making the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah, I get that. Maybe a training montage.
Well, yeah, and that's I feel like if they just they established that some time has passed. I think they should have had made him visibly younger.
Yeah.
And then have 10 years pass.
Yes.
I think that would have helped that movie a lot.
Yeah, no doubt. That, and it just played off the rich guy becomes a superhero thing again.
Yeah.
Which is getting kind of old. Even for nerds like us. Speaking of rich guys becoming superheroes, Iron Man 3 is our number 10th entry on the list. The highest that was ranked was 9th, and that was by Bob. This was, I didn't realize this until I did the numbers. This was released in 2013. This is the first movie after the Avengers, which broke everything open. So huge anticipation for this. It hauled in $1.2 billion at the box office.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that number. I didn't realize it ranked that high. A lot of people had problems with this movie. I really didn't.
No. And that's, we're getting up into the rankings where
now we're going to heap praise on shit because
we've gone through the bad
once you get towards that top half, then it started getting hard for me because I really I like all of them.
See,
I like this one a lot.
I found it very easy to do my top 5 and my bottom 5. The 7 in the middle is very arbitrary.
Yeah.
I liked Iron Man 3. It could have been a couple positions higher or lower. I'm a little disappointed. It felt like when it blowing up all his suits of armor, it felt like the ending of the character. I would have liked to seen them retire Iron Man after that movie.
Yeah, because it seemed like that's kind of what they were hinting at.
Right.
And then just didn't follow through on at all. Like, didn't even acknowledge it when he reappears later.
Well, a big part of that was the move to Disney. All of a sudden, they had Disney money behind them. And they were like, oh, we can pay for Robert Downey Jr. now.
Yeah.
And they know, RDJ, he sells tickets.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, the big thing in this movie was the Mandarin twist, which so many fanboys hated, and I just adored it.
I loved it.
I did too.
It was so great. If I had a beef with this, it was a lack of influence by S.H.I.E.L.D. at any fucking level.
Yeah. And that's...
The president of the United States gets kidnapped off of Air Force One and S.H.I.E.L.D. ain't anywhere to be found.
Yeah. And that's going to be... That comes up a lot in any of the...
Pre-Winter Soldier?
Well, any of the movies, not even just S.H.I.E.L.D., but the other heroes. Any of the movies, particularly post-Avengers, where you have a solo outing and there's only so far you can go as far as the inciting incident and how bad things can get before in your mind you're thinking, where the hell are these other heroes? This calls for more than just this guy. And I kind of felt that way in Iron Man 3.
They went too big with it. If they kept the story a little smaller, they could have gotten away with that, I think. But yeah, this was written and directed by Shane Black, who just terrific banter between Tony Stark and the kid.
Great use of the kid.
Super, yeah.
God,
Shane Black is the best at those relationships.
Yeah.
And how to write for those relationships.
How badly could that have gone?
Yeah.
Can you imagine that movie with the kid character from so many other movies?
Mm-hmm.
Like the kid who makes the main character realize that they're a bastard or whatever. Like, it could have been so terrible.
Yeah, that in anybody else's hands, it probably would have been.
Yeah.
But Shane Black is just so good at it. Yeah, I'd like to see him.
He could have been Anakin Skywalker.
Oh, God. Had to say that. Guess we'll be ranking those again sometime. Speaking of billion-dollar movies, our 9th entry is Age of Ultron, the second Avengers movie. The highest this was ranked by any of us was 5th by me, because I think this is a really rewatchable movie. You guys disagree? We'll get to that.
I had it in my bottom half. Did I not?
This was released in 2015, made $1.4 billion. This was the most highly anticipated movie in the MCU ever, I believe. And James had it way down at 13th.
Yeah.
Bob had it at 10th.
And I think at one revision in my list, I actually had it lower than that. But
it had its problems. No question about it.
I would like to see Joss Whedon's version.
Yeah.
You mean one he wanted to make?
Yes, the one he wanted to make and not the one the studio forced him to make.
Yeah, there was a real nasty falling out there, and they chased him over to DC. He's writing and directing sort of Justice League, which comes out next week. But yeah, I don't know. I thought this movie had some of the best scenes ever in any Marvel movie. The Hulkbuster fight in Johannesburg was really fantastic. The battle with the New Look Avengers rallying around that post in the Citadel to protect from Ultron's minions. That was just pure fucking eye candy. But the villain.
But, well, and it's not just the villain, but, well, first off, you cannot make a movie called Age of Ultron and have Ultron be boring.
Yeah.
And Ultron was fucking boring.
They just did not do a good job getting across what his motivation was.
And then to add to that, to have another movie, you know, on top, you got away with it once in the original Avengers, to have the disposable robotic bad guys that can just be thrown around, torn in half, whatever. To do that again, just so you can do the mass fight scenes. Like, I want to see, and we still haven't gotten much of it in the MCU. I want to see superhero versus supervillain fights.
Yeah, boss battles.
Yeah.
Or if they are boss battles, they're one-on-one. Like, you didn't get a shot of the Avengers gang tackling Ultron. Well, or figuring out why. And Ultron was really underpowered compared to what he is in the comics.
Yeah.
Way underpowered. In the comics, he is made of vibranium. Which I know they spun that theme off to create Vision.
Yeah.
Which is another one of the great parts of that movie.
Oh, yeah. And I like that. And I like the fact that they sort of set up for that with the voice casting.
Yeah, he is utterly arresting every time he's on screen.
Yeah.
Because of the mix of practical and CG that they do on him.
Paul Bettany.
And Paul Bettany plays the shit out of it. I mean, just kills in that role.
And you got to figure somebody, you know, on Iron Man, somebody had to be thinking about that in that casting.
Back in 2007? Nobody was thinking about it in an Ultron movie in 2007. That was Bettany knew Favreau from, you know,
you think it was
bistro.
Just that random?
Yeah.
Because
Joss Whedon is the one that came up with.
I know you hear Jarvis a lot, but at the same time, you know, it seems to me like if they got really lucky, if it was just luck, to have somebody who had transitioned so well.
Yeah, because that could have been like a big bald fat guy doing the voice of Jarvis, and they'd have to shit can him. The number 8th movie on this list is Spider-Man: Homecoming. The highest anyone had this ranked was 8th, and that was by Bob. Let's see. This was released, what was it, July? July of this year? I think so. Anyway, it made $880 million. That's not a bad haul for a non-Avengers movie. Tom Holland is so good in that role.
Yes.
How they used what happened previously in the MCU to build that villain was fucking genius.
Yeah. And how refreshing was it that they trusted us to know Spidey's origin story? Mm-hmm. We didn't have to sit through Uncle Ben getting killed again.
Yeah, or watching him get bit by a spider and go through all the changes and kill 45 minutes of the movie.
It's like, okay, Spider-Man is part of our shared consciousness. We don't have to rehash this. We can just pick him up somewhere along his life and just drop into his life and understand. We get why he has spider powers.
And still they don't ignore it. They still reference to it. I mean, that was a pretty traumatic event, what happened, and it's referenced to, but not dwelled upon, or no flashbacks or any of that shit. Best version of Spider-Man on screen?
I still think the first two Raimi movies are...
Yeah,
Spidey 2 for me. That's tough to top.
Yeah,
it was a really.
It's always
really
going to be tough to top.
I mean, it's the first true to the source material. Like, Spider-Man's supposed to be 15 years old,
and Holland looks 15 years old and acts 15 years old.
That's one of the things I know. It's incidental, but just the fact that they considered the fact that why would the aunt of someone who's in high school be perpetually 80 years old?
Right. Yeah.
Which they didn't do in the Raimi films.
Yeah.
They still had to make Aunt May look
decrepit,
70 years old.
No, that was fun.
My
movie.
one beef with the movie is that he went from almost inept to very well versed in his powers too quickly.
Oh, in the first ever Spider-Man movie, the first Raimi Spider-Man?
No, the Homecoming.
But he'd had them for a while prior to.
But he got really good at them really quickly.
He was really good at them in Civil War.
Yeah,
and if you're in Civil War, where Tony shows the YouTube video, he was really good before he ever met Tony Stark.
Yeah,
and
no, I didn't have an issue with that.
No. The best Avengers cameo in any goddamn MCU movie ever, Captain America's PSAs.
Yeah.
They were hilarious.
I think this guy's a war criminal now, but whatever. No, and that's the other thing I liked in that is, oh God, now I'm blanking. Somebody talk.
I liked how they kind of did that head fake for Mary Jane, the MJ.
Yeah.
That was a really cool head fake. The head fake to Michael Keaton's character,
the Vulture,
having the daughter that Peter was interested in.
Yeah,
and so cleverly done by using cultural bias.
Yes,
so smart,
just great. Yeah, and that's if I have a biggest complaint in that movie, it is that Keaton is much more menacing outside of the suit than he is in it.
Yeah, and he looks pretty damn creepy in the suit.
Yeah,
like that's a creepy looking suit. But yeah, they jam more actual Marvel characters in that movie than they did any of the Avengers movies.
Yeah,
when you consider the Tinkerer, the Scorpion, the Shocker, oh my God, and there was another villain they had, Donald Glover. His character is actually a newer villain that we're probably not too familiar with. They crammed a shitload of characters into this movie and did so superbly. I think this is going to age well, and I think it's going to move up this list as time goes on. Probably will never jump past our number 7 entry, and that is the first Iron Man. It was released in 2008. Made $585 million on a $140 million budget. Yeah.
And should never have worked.
Nope.
Nobody knew who the hell Iron Man was.
No, it was a B-level superhero.
Which was brilliant in retrospect.
Yeah,
to start that way.
You and Ricotta had this ranked 6.
I mean, Robert Downey Jr. That's where
he made the MCU.
He took this movie on his back and said, "I got this," and he did. He just charm and charisma and great comic timing.
The update of the origin story I thought worked way better than it had any right to.
Yep.
And there's an origin story that needed to be told because no one knew his origin story.
Yeah,
and it's pretty compelling.
Yes.
The big downers in this movie, besides Terrence Howard, who's boring as shit, the third act,
the boss fight didn't seem.
The boss fight was pretty terrible. Marvel is still. I mean, this is their first. I can't
even remember what that character is called.
The Ironmonger.
Yes.
Yeah, but Jeff Bridges was great until he jumped into the goddamn armor.
Yep.
But he was fantastic in that movie. And the interplay between him and RDJ was really, really cool. I liked it when those two were on screen together. Mm-hmm. That tension, it was really well done and palpable.
But that was the beginning of, the constant complaint about the Marvel movies is weak villains.
Yeah.
And they came by it honest because it started right there with Thor, or with Iron Man rather.
Yeah, they've not had too many compelling villains.
No.
Maybe 3.
Well, and I still think that they're too insistent on having one main villain. And I think it handicaps the movies.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I want to see if it's an Avengers movie or if it's any kind of team up movie, I want to see a group of superheroes against a group of supervillains. And they just haven't done it.
No, and
I don't know why, because it seems like a slam dunk.
Well, they don't leave their villains alive. They're always killing them.
And it's also, every villain has to be some kind of stunt casting, and you know, it would be too expensive.
Yeah.
The way they do their villains. You know, you can't bring in, you know, 5 villains for a movie because they've all got to be A-list actors.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, stop doing it that way.
Well,
start building up a rogues gallery that are reusable.
Yeah.
Other than Betrock.
Didn't he end up dying?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. God damn it. Yeah, so from the first movie in the MCU to the most recent, Thor Ragnarok ranked 6 on our list. The highest anyone ranked it was 4th, I believe.
That was me.
That was, that was James. It's early. As of Saturday, it had made $431 million at the box office, and that's in less than 2 full weeks. And that's still more than Hulk. And this thing's just going to do $1 billion. Easily the best Thor movie.
It's one of those. It's going to do well overseas.
Oh, it's going to kill overseas.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. All these numbers, by the way, I believe are just domestic. So easily the best Thor movie. You try selling this to Marvel back in 2008.
Yeah.
This does not work. It could only happen like in the here and now in the MCU.
Yeah.
Just off the wall, in a good way-ish. I don't know. There were a lot of themes that got rolled over by poorly timed jokes.
Yeah.
Which really sucked.
And that was sort of the biggest complaint about the movie and reviews and stuff that I saw was no substance really got the chance to develop because it was all, they were too determined to have a joke in almost every minute of the screenplay.
Yeah. Like, okay, spoilers. If you haven't seen Ragnarok, we're going to say spoilery shit. Rejoin us in the next 2 minutes. The Banner comes to, and he's like, I've spent 2 years as the Hulk, and they write it off as a joke.
Yeah.
Like, that's not to that character, that's traumatizing as hell.
Yeah.
Never really touched on that. So when he makes that sacrifice to become the Hulk again.
Yeah.
You don't get that punch. You don't get that sense of sacrifice.
Yeah, because I mean, he says he may not be able to come back, and he's still the Hulk at the end, even though it's long after the fight. So that may be the case.
The movie definitely sacrificed heart for laughs.
Yeah.
You know, other Marvel movies have been able to balance the two and do it well, one of which we'll get to. But this one, I just thought they tried way too hard to be cute.
But in so many cases, they were successful, which is why I had it ranked as high as I did.
That the theater act, was fucking great.
With the uncredited.
Oh my God, that was just how they got those guys to do that is just so perfect.
Yeah.
That was one of the highlights. I loved the action sequences were fantastic.
Yeah.
That opening sequence against Surtur.
Yeah.
Was terrific. That was a goddamn heavy metal album come to life.
Yes.
And even then, he's twisting on the chain and you're laughing.
Yeah. And, you know, as long as we're still in spoilers.
Yes.
That if I had any other big complaint about it, it's that I knew exactly how it was going to end.
See, I didn't see.
I was surprised that they went that far.
It was Chekhov's gun. They left that hanging. You knew that was still out there, and because the movie is called Ragnarok, it's like, you know, everything's gone to hell. What are they going to do? Well, the only thing that they can do. the thing they set up in the first act.
I was just, God, this sounds so strange to say. I was glad to see them actually destroy something.
Yeah.
Like, obliterate it. Like, they obliterated a world.
But then they made a joke out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus. Yeah, so I definitely had my problems with it. I would watch the shit out of it because the art direction in it is fantastic. I mean, it is just visually stunning. Tessa Thompson is utterly arresting as Valkyrie.
Yeah. I'd read about her in reviews, and there was so much praise for her that I was expecting to see more of her, and I was kind of disappointed that there wasn't.
I really hope she plays a big role in Infinity War.
Yeah.
Or a larger role. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with her character, because that was it for the Thor movies. That's it for the Thor trilogy.
Yeah.
So I don't know where she's going to fit in.
And that's one thing that has always bothered me with the Thor movies in general is the idea of Asgardians. And it's the issue of power levels.
Always comes back to this and not so much the movies. They do a pretty good job letting you know where these characters are at. It's the TV shows that really botch it.
Well, and I guess that's my question. If you go to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Peter McNichol's character, who's just some dweeby guy, but he's an Asgardian.
He's a lesser Loki.
He can punch through a wall, no problem. He could pick up a normal person and throw him 100 feet. Should that not be the case?
I
don't know how Marvel is pitching the movie Asgard. Like in the comics, the Asgardians normally were just tougher than humans.
Yeah.
So if that's kind of the case in the movie Asgard, then okay. But they never do anything to really address that.
Yeah, because and that's what I don't get when they've got, the civilians who they kind of treat like they're just regular humans.
Yeah.
That they're evacuating. It's like they're still Asgardians.
Right. Yeah.
Like they're not as strong as Thor, but
oh, yeah, speaking of people in Asgard, pissed me off the Warriors 3 were unceremoniously executed and no Lady Sif. No, not even a mention of like why she's not there.
Well, and it becomes even more sort of insulting when you know the backstory.
Well, she has her own television show, and there was no way she could commit to that.
Well, but
if they were going
to, but what she said, was quoted as saying is that it could have been set up, but they basically asked her at the last minute. So it seems like they didn't have much for her to do to begin with.
Or any of the other Warriors 3.
Yeah, obviously.
You know who did have a lot
I don't
to
know
do?
if she would have just been another body. Maybe we're lucky she wasn't in it, because now she can come back.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't that be cool if she went to one of the other 9 realms?
Yeah.
To check on something, came back, what the fuck happened to Asgard? Some guys that were really busy are the Russo brothers. They directed the number 5 entry on this, Captain America Civil War. This got as high as 3rd place. I believe that was by me. Yes. This was released in 2016. This made $1.1 billion, and this is a non-Avengers or Iron Man movie.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. It was Avengers Light.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a terrific mashup. Avengers 2.5, call it.
Yeah.
A nifty...
Certainly a better movie than Age of Ultron by a long shot.
Yeah. A real cool spin on the original comic book Civil War plotline.
Which would have been unworkable as a movie.
Well, it's basically not possible to do in the Marvel Universe as currently constituted.
Yep. I could see with the inclusion of Spider-Man how you probably could have set it up.
Yeah, but it's so hard to do without mutants.
Yeah.
The mutants said that out.
Yeah, the mutants didn't do shit in Civil War.
Yeah, but they were...
You're thinking of the New Warriors. The New Warriors are the ones that fucked up and blew up the school.
Well, I know, but the sense that anybody could have these powers and that's why we have to register people is sort of rooted in the existence of mutants.
Yeah. Okay.
Where, it was a hard sell in the movie because basically there's no unidentified superheroes.
Yeah.
There's there maybe out there somewhere there might be someone else with these powers, but there's not that looming threat of mutants or whatever.
Well, no, but that's why I said it was a really clever spin.
Yeah, they had to take it a different direction.
Yes, and the direction they took it was really smart. I love what the Russo brothers do, and I can't remember their writing team that has written their 2 movies with them. McFeely and something. God, I'll think of it. Anyway, yeah, this is probably my favorite non-Avengers movie. I mean, this is just, it's got rewatchability out the wazoo. Oh my God.
The airport scene.
Yeah. And the suspense and tension they built up through Zemo throughout, even though you weren't really sure what the hell he was aiming at, I loved the tension they gave him and what Daniel Bruhl brought to that role was really fucking intense. I like Sebastian Stan better than I have in any other movie in this.
Yeah.
Like you got the feeling that he's just tired of this shit.
Yeah.
He just wants out and he knows he can never get away from it. So there's that sense of desperation and the airport scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which plays, to me, the biggest weakness of the movie is the fight scene at the end.
It's tough to top the airport scene. After you come off the airport scene, it's like, why are we still in the theater?
that fight scene at the end kind of feels unmotivated to me. It feels like there needed to be, like, it could have been solved with a conversation.
Yeah.
And I know everybody's sort of emotionally beyond that, but you could have combined sort of a dramatic interplay between those characters that builds into a fight that maybe wasn't so extended, and actually, combine characterization.
Okay.
And then have it lead into a fight.
Yeah, it was protracted too. Just drawn out way too long.
The thing I liked about the fight was the ferocity of it. Like,
yeah.
Some of those blows would have killed the other person if they'd landed.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't pulling punch. This wasn't Rocky and Apollo Creed at the end of Rocky 3.
Yeah.
They were out for blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great movie.
I'm the kind of guy who feels like that level of emotion could have been conveyed just as well in dialogue, and then combine it with the fight.
Sure, no,
but when you have Kevin Feige standing over your shoulder, saying we haven't had a punch in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's always the problem with the MCU. As great as an asset as Kevin Feige is to have put all this together and to put the pieces in place and to make the hires to make these films, he's also one of the biggest anchors.
Yeah.
Who is, he has to walk between the two worlds of the bankrollers, the mouse, and the filmmakers.
Yeah.
So he's got a tough job, but I think Civil War is a case where you didn't need a fight that lasted that long.
No.
You could have been just as ferocious for a much shorter time and gotten your point across. Also, masterful job of introducing 2 new characters into the MCU without bogging the movie down.
Yeah.
That was brilliant. So, yeah, juggling all those and giving everybody screen time. Just terrific job. Another terrific job, I think you'll both agree, is James Gunn, what he does with the Guardians of the Galaxy, especially Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And that is our 4th entry on the list. That ranked as high as 2nd place by James.
Yeah.
James loves him some Guardians. This was Marvel's May tentpole release. Surprise, it only made $863 million.
Yeah,
I was really surprised.
It's a little
by
disappointing.
It still made more than the first one. But
yeah.
To me, I enjoyed this one more than the first one.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to age better than the first one. It looked incredible. It
gets a little too esoteric
at times.
The use of ego. And I understand why they did it thematically, but at the same time, at some point it becomes unhinged from any reality that can have an emotional impact anymore because it's just too big.
Yeah. I love what Kurt Russell did.
And it's not that I don't love the movie, but to me, that's the weakness.
Well, obviously, because you ranked it second.
Yeah.
This was another movie, not nearly to the degree as Ragnarok, but certainly gag after gag and sometimes undercutting certain plot or emotion points. But I enjoyed every second of this movie and still do.
Well, and the fact that they were able to get the emotional gut punch they did.
Which one?
Out of well, at the end, out of a character who was a villain before.
Yeah, spoilers, by the way.
Yeah,
well, it's a movie. Yeah,
they're pretty vague spoilers.
My one complaint is I think they leaned a little too heavily on Baby Groot.
Yeah, I could have. I would have been so much happier if Groot had just been grown back up into a tree by the time they did,
or just kind of used more sparingly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it just fits the sensibility of that franchise that Gunn is established.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pop culture. What did we say after Ragnarok? Guardians is pop music of the MCU. Doctor Strange was psychedelia and Ragnarok was the heavy metal.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we put those. But yeah, I mean, it's just pop fun. Whole lot of fun. The songs make more sense in context of the movie than the first movie, but they're not quite as crowd pleasing.
Yeah, right.
And again, the effects, they've come a long way. Like even the effects in Ultron were a little rubbery. They didn't feel rubbery in this one. And you're talking about a little talking tree and a raccoon. So
yeah.
Big ups to them, but collectively, we decided we like Guardians of the Galaxy. The first one better. That ranks third on our list. That had a first place vote, James.
Yeah.
And a second place vote, Ricotta. Let's see. That was released.
Where did you have it?
I had it like 4th or 5th or something. No, I had it 7th.
7th?
Yeah.
I was thinking you had it pretty low.
Why do you hate Guardians of the Galaxy?
It's not hate. It's I like other movies better. And this was released in 2014, made $773 million. Talk about a new direction forward for Marvel. This is really, to me, the movie that said, okay, they're willing to do anything.
This was the movie that said, we ran out of fucks to give. We're going to take C-list characters, and you're going to pay $10 to watch them.
And we're going to redesign them completely.
Yeah. I mean, redesign the team.
Yeah.
And they must have had the Infinity Watch in mind when they did this.
Yeah.
I would wager they probably did. And give it to a director who really had no blockbuster experience whatsoever. Or even big movie.
This was an audacious movie, and they pulled it off almost impeccably.
Yeah, that's to me. That's why I'm not too upset that this outpaced Guardians 2, because this was so important to the MCU. And look at the movies that followed.
It had to work. It had to work, or Thor Ragnarok could not have happened.
Or Doctor Strange.
So, not to get off on a tangent, but so at what point do you think, if a movie bombed, that would have been the end of the meta story of the Infinity Gauntlet?
Oh, Avengers. So, if Avengers fell flat,
but after Avengers, they were going ahead
because
even if every movie
they lint into Avengers.
Yeah,
it's not like they were just this big money machine going into Avengers. they were really in trouble. And Avengers was their last stand. It's like, this doesn't work. You know, I guess we're going to try to get jobs at Fox, because that was their last hope. And that's why Avengers was such an important movie. And, you know, while we're talking about it, that is our second movie on the list. That came out in 2012 and made $1.5 billion. This had 2 second place votes. I believe that was me and Ricardo. No. Who's the other second place vote? Oh, it had a second and a third. I have it second. Bob has it third. Oh, and James has it third.
Yeah.
I really need to learn how to read my own writing. Anyway, this was, like we just said in the setup, this was so triumphant for so many reasons to so many people.
Yeah.
Not the least of which was director, writer, even though Zach Penn gets a writing credit, he didn't write it. Joss Whedon. This was his coming out party. This put him on the map, and deservedly so. He crushed it.
And then hasn't really done much since.
Well, the Ultron thing killed him.
Yeah,
that broke him.
Yeah, and that's I really think that's a shame, because I mean he's a real talent.
He is.
And to think that Marvel could have, Marvel Disney could have burned him out on blockbusters in just 2 movies.
It really was like, yeah, he worked his ass off on Avengers, and it shows. It was, I still can't believe they pulled it off.
Yeah.
Like, it's, 5 years removed from it now? Well, more like 5.5 years since its release. And you cannot believe that they pulled that off.
Yeah.
To have all those characters in the same movie and played well by very good actors. That just still blows my mind. And when I go back and watch it, I always have that feeling when I'm watching it. It's like the first time that we all went to the mall to watch it at the theater. I still get those little tinges.
Yeah.
For all its faults, it is such a good time.
And it does have its flaws. I mean, it's the whole third act is sort of plot-wise meaningless. It's just a giant victory lap for the movie. It's just a huge celebration of the fact that they made this movie at all. We're just going to do crazy shit for the last 40 minutes because we can. And, that's, everything that's important happens on top of Stark Tower. And then with Tony flying up through the thing. But, all these fights going on mean nothing. And yet we eat it up because it feels so earned.
Yeah, I mean, the build up to that moment was, and the skirmishes they had leading up to that, those were terrific.
Yeah.
The Hulk Thor, the Hulk Iron Man.
Exactly.
Those were,
when they come together with that, the iconic rotating shot of them together as a team, that's basically the end of the movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
But then it goes on for another half hour.
And we love it.
And I still love it.
But
structurally, it's a little unsound there.
I think that this movie would not have succeeded without the actors that play. Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans. The chemistry between those two is pretty amazing.
And the tension between them, like right from the first pairing.
They want to fuck so bad.
No, that's Cap and Bucky.
And then, Coulson and I think that Sam Jackson does an excellent job with Nick Fury, and just even the Black Widow. I'm blanking. Scarlett Johansson.
How can you ever
that opening scene with her tied to the chair?
Yeah,
and her little asides. She just puts the right notes on them to convey a lot of her character with not a lot of talking.
Gil, help me out. What's the name of the actor who played Phil Coulson?
Clark Gregg.
Clark Gregg. What had he done?
West Wing.
West Wing.
He was in the New
Sports
Adventures of the Old Christine. That was actually like his big. That was his best paying gig because it was a half-hour sitcom, went on for a few years.
They hung the movie on how much the audience would like that guy.
Yeah. And they played it. They trusted that you had seen the other movies.
Yeah.
And even if you didn't, here's his introduction, and you know that everybody in the MCU loves this guy. And Whedon was very good at getting him alone with everyone to reinforce that in your mind.
Yeah.
That's why this movie is such a triumph, is how not only getting him on screen, like Zack Snyder got Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman in the same movie. That's only 3 characters, and it fucking blew.
Yeah.
Whedon had to do it with how many characters? When you think of the Nick Furies, and yeah, I guess Hawkeye was there too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
No one really raved about Jeremy Renner's performance, did they? But
he was mostly mind controlled in this one.
He's a thing.
He was the best part of Age of Ultron.
Yeah, I feel bad we didn't mention that. He was the heart of that movie. He was the part that worked for me.
Yeah, and Whedon had to fight with the studio to get that farm scene in there.
Yeah, and that movie would have fallen apart completely without that.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. You know what movie never falls apart for me? Our number 1, The Winter Soldier. This got 2 first place votes. Why are you giggling? And James, man. James had it down at 5th. I don't know what the fuck his
Why do you hate Winter Soldier?
Yeah.
We've been through this before.
This was released in 2014. Not much was expected of it. And it made $714 million for a March release. And it is the most well-made Marvel movie ever. Got a nice small story that could have potentially been bigger had they not intervened. I enjoy the shit out of this movie.
It felt to me like a Jason Bourne movie. I think you said before, this was a movie that showed us how Captain America is supposed to fight and act. And this was a movie, the first movie, I think, in the MCU that had consequences, big consequences.
Yeah.
We saw S.H.I.E.L.D. destroyed.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that rippled throughout everything that came afterward.
Including the TV series.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just expertly crafted. Wonderfully directed by the Russo brothers. And another huge gamble for Marvel. Take these guys that directed Community and Arrested Development, 2 half-hour comedies. It's like, let's give them the keys to Captain America, see what they can do. And they make the best movie on our list.
The elevator fight scene?
Yeah.
So good. So good. And the Russos have this attention to detail that is really lost on other directors. Either the other directors are too lazy to do a sequence like the elevator scene, or they miss something. Like even Whedon in his action scenes misses a lot of those little beats that when you remove them, the action doesn't make sense.
But you figure that probably took 3 days of shooting.
Right.
A lot of people aren't going to want to, aren't going to want to put that much money, time, effort into that. So, and then you get what you get.
Yeah.
But no, that scene, that's my favorite part of the movie. I had it ranked lower. We've had conversations about this before. My problem with the movie is basically just tonal. I want my superhero movies to be more fun than this.
Yeah, I liked it because
it works really well for what it is. It's not what I wanted it to be.
It really does break out of it's really the first super serious movie in the MCU. Like it's more Dark Knight than Guardians for sure. Maybe that's why I like it. A little more grounded.
Very grounded.
Yeah.
It works well for it.
Yeah.
And again, just not what when I went to the movie theater, that's not what I expected from a Captain America movie.
especially not one in the MCU.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's kind of why I like it. That's kind of why I dig it. I don't need a joke every 2 goddamn minutes.
Yeah.
Like, the jokes that are in this work so well because they are story related. They're not a pop culture reference or something. It's like public kissing in public makes people uncomfortable. Yes, it does.
Yeah,
that's a good joke. But well, that's our rankings. We should probably,
if you hate them, let us know.
Yeah. How would they get a hold of us, Bob?
Well, they could hit us up on Twitter at Bob Ricotta,
at PostJam9,
or at Guiltastrophe.
And we're going to be sharing these on our Facebook, and it'll be on the YouTubes. Well, you know that because you're listening to it. But yeah, hit us up on social media. Let us know if you have any differences. We love hearing from our listeners. We love interacting with them on Facebook and Twitter. So please share your opinion. It's your show. Otherwise, we're just 3 guys in a room talking.
Or what kind of thing would you like from us? Let's get some ideas. Throw some ideas at us. It's worked in the past.
It has.
I mean, we've done shows based on listener ideas.
So maybe we should ask the audience: should we go see Justice League or?
Good question.
Are we really going to go with their answer?
Well,
if you buy our tickets, should we go?
Let's crowdfund this. A Kickstarter campaign.
Go fund me.
Go fuck yourself. And cut.
That was a good show, boys.
As always.
Play us out, James.
No.